Zoom recording.
Can you see it?
And I'll make myself mute.
Can you see the screen? Okay, can you see the slides?
Yes, I can see. Yes, I can.
Okay, so anyway, if you see anyone coming in, please feel free to admit, okay? So so I should start now. Okay, thank you again for Madhu, Chair Lady's invitation. It's my first time joining the fellowship event, and I'm Eugene Fong from Hong Kong. And I was the governor of District 3450 back in 2013 to 14. And I'm in business, so I'm not a person in education profession, but I have been involved, I should say, deeply involved in quite a few advisory committee of the Hong Kong government in area of education and also for youth and teenagers and family values, all this kind of thing. And I am a member of Education Commission, which is the highest level of advisory committee in Hong Kong. Actually, the Rotarians have been very active involved with the education sector, because the current chairperson of that Education Commission is a Rotarian. The immediate past chairperson of that commission was also a Rotarian, past Governor Moses Chan. So Rotarians have been doing our job, helping the Hong Kong education sector. But my specialty is on homeschool cooperation. So while I'm in education committee, I'm specialized in to look after parents and also relationship between the families and schools. So that's just my brief background. Okay, let me just continue with the presentation, the rest of the presentation. Hang on. Trying to go down to the next slide, but okay. Okay, this is the flow of presentation. I need to be patient. Okay. Again, Madhu, if you have any questions, feel free to ask along the way. It's only small groups of two of us. Sure, okay. Okay, so I'll talk about briefly explain Hong Kong education system. And secondly, about some information about development of homeschool cooperation in Hong Kong since the 90s. But that will be brief. Then I'll concentrate on to introduce the work of the committee, to give you a scope as to know what's being done. And also some examples of the homeschool cooperation taken by the schools in Hong Kong. And I should finish by looking at the parent-teacher associations. I'm not sure whether your respective places, including in India, have got PTA, whether it's a common feature in school, but it has been very popular in Hong Kong. We have, I think we got PTAs in all the primary schools and secondary schools, but around only 35% of our kindergartens have got PTA. So one of our major objective is to establish PTAs in kindergartens. Okay, so briefly on Hong Kong education system, it was modeled because Hong Kong was a colony of UK. So our system heavily modeled on the British system. But while before 2009, for high school, we have 7 years of high school. Now we've changed. So reducing the number of years for high school to 6 years, but extending the duration for university study to 4 years. So that was only back in 2009 we make that change. Kindergarten from 3 to 6 years old, primary school for 6 years, and most of the schools actually use Chinese as a language for instruction. And I think that's Malatan. So that's I think that's facilitated learning by the kids. And secondary schools, as I said, now we've got 6 years. I think to give you the idea to the scale, how big is the population of students. In 2016, that's the latest information I've got. The total population completing the final year, the final exams of high school or secondary school, total 54,000. So that's each year we have around 50,000 students. Okay, and if you look at and the following year, around 90% of them pursue further studies. So only around 5.7 or 6%, around 6% got full-time employment. So most people in Hong Kong do expect to study until they finish there's tertiary institutions, whether it's a degree or a sub-degree. So sub-degree including high diploma or high certificates, or associate diploma, associate degree. And then some go in between, but not a sort of major number, okay, around 4%. So I've got part-time job or part-time study, okay. So this is, again, I think there's something unique in Hong Kong. That's we do have very low number of teenage students after they graduate from secondary schools expect to work, to join the workforce immediately. Okay, so some background about homeschool cooperation. This is taken from the Hong Kong Code of Professional Conduct and Education. So that reminds the teacher that I'd actually used that slide when I did some training with the teachers in Hong Kong. Explaining to them it's important to listen more to the parents. You know, how they actually think about education. But in Hong Kong, teachers do have a lot of say. I think the schools and teachers have a lot of say to decide the content of the learning in classes. And often parents don't have much say. But I use this slide from the Teacher Code of Professional Conduct to remind them that actually the teachers, as they join the profession, should have committed to have a list of obligations towards parents and guardians. And you need to observe the rights of parents to know about what's happening in classes. Also, to actually give them all the information that they reasonably demand. And teachers should truthfully report the students' academic performance to parents, and take into account all the special background information about the parents as well as, and also keep them confidential. So it's very important that teachers do establish good working relationship with the parents. And if you look at the reform, they have actually in Hong Kong, the education system went through a series of reform back since the 90s. And in 1991, there was a particular set of documents called the New Measure of School Management. And explicitly, it says that all teachers, principals, school boards, and parents and students are to be involved in decision making. And again, unfortunately, it's something that I think it's not frequently observed. Okay, I would say, because decision making still very concentrated in the hands of schools and school managers. But back in 1991, there was a set of documents that says that parents and students should be more involved. And the particular committee I'm chairing was established following a report called Report Number 5 back in 1992. It was established a closer homeschool relationships between families and schools. So that was the start of the committee. But now we turn to know what the committee actually does now. Oh, hang on. Okay, one more before that. Back in 2001, there was an academic study done by two academics, Ho and Lai. And actually they said that back then, a series of factors are identified to be success factors and for homeschool cooperation. I do think that they are still relevant today. And a very good reminder, but back then, it was observed that they need to start with teacher training, basically ensure that the mindset of teachers is right for homeschool cooperation. I think to me that's most important, because the teachers really control the kind of communication that goes between the family and the schools. So if they know that it's important, they need to communicate with the families. That will mark the start of homeschool cooperation. And then secondly, of course, is homeschool communication. So there must be different forms of communication involved to ensure that the parents they do receive timely information, and they do feel welcome to get involved. And then a deepening of parent education to recognize that parent needs to learn, to recognize that we need to train up parents on parenting issues, on child development issues, maybe even on the parents' own mental wellness, to ensure that they balance, they stay composed as they teach their child at home. The fourth success factor is to remind teachers that parents need to get involved in student learning. So I think this is particularly felt in COVID situation. Many students actually stay at home to do online learning. And what the teachers do is they do videotape and online classes. And of course, there are, so they cannot do in terms of classroom management, the usual T1, T2, T3 thing. So many T2, T3 students naturally are left behind. So they don't have time, teachers don't have time to actually take care of the special needs. But who can fill the gap? So the teachers need to rely on the parents. Unfortunately, again, because the teachers have been under a lot of pressure themselves during COVID, they have not been, I think they have not been really tackling well, having the parents being the education partner or taking up the assistant to the teachers. But again, it was a factor identified back in 2001 in academic study. That's important success factor. And the fifth one is contact and support among parents. So peer support, establish a platform that they can communicate with each other. I have heard that parents are resolving conflicts of other families. Okay, I think that may be easier. Sometimes I don't know about my fellow Rotarians, but sometimes I do find that it may be easier to talk to somebody else's child than talk to my own son or daughter. And making a platform for parents to communicate with each other, also doing some learning classes, interest classes, is something that's, again, important to the success of homeschool cooperation. Now we turn to the committee that I try to be quick, because there are quite a few slides that my colleagues have prepared for me to present, to talk about. But this is the committee that actually I'm chairing, who is actually in charge of homeschool cooperation in Hong Kong. I should say in charge of supporting homeschool cooperation in Hong Kong. Okay, it was set up back in 1993. And we've got a whole list of members from the school sector, some professionals, including medical doctors, lawyers, accountants, different professions, and also different parent groups. This is major fields of work. So the first one is actually establishment of PTA. So in Hong Kong, establishment of PTA has been seen as the single most important strategy of homeschool cooperation. I think that's easy to understand, because with the establishment of PTA, I think it becomes a more level playing field between the school and the parents. So the power mechanics got fundamentally changed, so that the parents have a group that they can discuss with the schools openly and collectively. And so PTA has been a chief strategy for Hong Kong, the chief homeschool cooperation. Then the rest really is we do research, we do promotion in media. We talk to the we establish training material. We talk to the teachers training institutions, ensure that they do include the training to deal with, or to actually to handle parents as they train up teachers or teachers to be. And then we conduct survey and also facilitate schools at all fronts, in area of promoting parent education, and that's the responsibilities of the committee. So I've been a chairperson since September 2020. So normally each term lasts for 2 years. So my first term should finish in August this year, and I can take up to 3 terms. So I'm not sure what will happen after August this year. I'm happy to stay. It's been fascinating, despite the fact that because of COVID, I cannot get into contact with the parents. Okay, but this is how we structure the committee. So we have got 4 different working groups. So take care of activities, information to the parents, and supporting. In particular, the working group on homeschool support, because in Hong Kong Hong Kong is divided. Hong Kong is small, but we have divided Hong Kong. We are around 7 million, just slightly over 7 million people. We've divided Hong Kong into 18 administrative districts. For each of the administrative district, there is what we call a federation of PTAs, which is a collection of the PTAs for the whole district. So they got a federation, and it is a job of our committee to support the 18 federations of PTAs. So I think indirectly we're supporting all the PTAs. So there are altogether 1,000 schools in Hong Kong, if you look at primary and secondary, so around 500 each. As I said, all of them have got PTAs, and then we have got over 500 kindergartens, and we are looking at around 35% of them got PTA. So that's the whole sort of community that we're working in. We don't deal with university. So for university, we don't worry about homeschool operation. Okay, or I just say it's done by their respective student development affairs or affairs office. Okay, not centrally by the government. Okay, so we organize our parent talks, talk about education policies, and of promoting parent education. And that's something I think that's up and coming in Hong Kong. In Hong Kong, the government just finished working on the framework for parenting for really young kids at the age for the kindergarten kids. We're working upwards. We're working for primary schools children now to give them an idea as to what constitutes good parenting. And also that framework is utilized by schools and also NGOs in developing parenting programs for the different parents. It's something new, surprisingly. Okay, maybe something that we should have done a long time ago, but it's something that the government has been busily working on for the time being. And we organized annual symposium. I was there in the most recent one, 2021. Different topics, love without elements, learn without boundaries. There was naturally a topic for in the era where we have COVID. And then we have also earlier symposium. I have to say that my immediate past chairperson of this committee is featured in the photo here on the left-hand side, is a Rotarian too, past president Henry Tong. So Rotarians have been really involved with the education sector in Hong Kong. We organize competition, so that's kids take part in different coloring competition, 4-panel comic drawing competition, Thanksgiving card design activity. Actually, these are for thanking just the teachers. And then we publish primary school profiles and secondary school profiles. Our committee has the honor of hosting the website, I think, among the websites that are most viewed in Hong Kong, among the government sectors. So our websites are viewed a lot of times when parents come to the time and they need to choose the schools, primary school and secondary school. So when they come to choose P1 and as secondary one, they come to look at our website for information about all the information about the school. Again, if any of my fellow Rotarians are doing research, they can utilize this database. This database is actually open for open use. You can download the data directly from the website. Okay, so it contains information about all the schools and in Hong Kong, kindergarten and primary schools, and they're submitted by the schools themselves. So a lot of information up there. So if anyone in need, welcome to ask me for the link. Here's a website. So the parents actually, general public can go in there for a lot of resources, including parenting tips, and also all the information we talk about primary school and secondary schools. And actually there are a lot of videos done by experts in the area of parenting, mental wellness, and child development. So this is a website we actually maintain. A lot of leaflets and brochures distributed to parents through the school network. Another thing that we do is to support the PTAs, support the schools. And we actually give them money. We provide grants. And there are different types of grants that's as long as they do activities in the area of homeschool cooperation, they can apply with funding from our committee. And this is the sort of some example of the grants that we're granting. So annual grant, setup grants, Hong Kong dollar is around to US dollar is around 8 to 1. So 5,000 Hong Kong dollar, that's around 650 US dollar. So this is the setup grant. So each year for the kindergarten, setup grant for kindergarten is $10,000. That's around 1,250 US dollar for setting up PTA in kindergartens in Hong Kong. Annual grants where they can apply each year for overhead expenses. We provide again for kindergarten $11,000. That's maybe around $14,000 US each year to each of the schools. Support the PTAs. And at maximum 2 activities, each will have $10,000 Hong Kong. That's around 1,200 US dollar each activity. They can apply for 2. And then if they choose to cooperate with other schools PTA, they can have 1 activity each year and kept at $20,000 Hong Kong. So that's around 2,500 US dollar. So that's how we're supporting, okay? But this is only an example of the grants. There are actually more. I will explain, okay, later in the later slide. The grants can be used for parent talks, parent workshops, seminars, reading scheme, even visits, to different places like tertiary institutions or vocational places. They can do that too as well. Reading schemes. So they can invite external trainers to do that, to do the training. And of course, for the FPTA, the Federation of PTAs I mentioned, there are 18 of them in Hong Kong, right? So 18 districts. Each district has got a federation of PTAs that consists of members of PTAs that actually got PTAs within that district to be the members. Okay, so and we have actually special support for them too. We have got special money. So annual grant for them is around 30,000 Hong Kong. That works out to be nearly $4,000 US. So that's for each of the federation. But then if they apply for money to for events, put it this way, they can apply for money for 4 activities individually. And each of them, we don't have a special cap. So they can apply for quite a significant amount of some money. And if they actually join hands with other federations, we can give them extra money. And the largest ones I remember in recent years is around $400,000 US, Hong Kong. So that's around $50,000 US for them to organize activities. So money-wise, I think we are doing our job. Actually, if you look at the photos down below, that's a drama that have been organized as a joint activity between the Federation of PTAs, and that was for parenting information. So it was very, very, very entertaining, but also very educational to watch too. But there are all sort of activities that can organize, like sport activities, trips, even cooking competition. I've been to one lately using organic food, and very creative. Those parents. And we also issue a handbook. This is in Chinese only, I think, and just PTA for the PTAs they can refer to that, because a lot of parents, they unlike Rotarians. If Rotarians taking part in PTAs, of course, we know the rules and we know the do's and don'ts. But for a lot of parents who are not as fortunate to be have as much experience in voluntary service, they do need guidance. And this handbook we actually produced a few years back. Give them all the governance issues, also all the operational tips they need to look into. We also organize executive committee training. So each of the PTA, they do have executive committee members. Each year we organize 5 sessions of training, mostly done physically, but this year we're also doing online as well, covering different areas. So ensure that the executive committee member, even the new hands, they do have the most, I think, a qualified training to be a PTA officer. As I said, establishing kindergarten PTAs is our main focus now. So we organize talks among the kindergarten's operators. We have done quite a few research. Again, these are public information you can download from our website. So we have done quite a few studies looking into the landscape of homeschool cooperation, all the key issues in Hong Kong. This is the sharing session from one of the actually the latest research project we did. That was done before COVID actually. So I was there on the far right, in the photo in the middle, doing the sharing. And there are promotion activities too. So not only we focus on parents, we also look at other stakeholders. For example, we encourage students and parents to do parents also appreciate teachers card. So they send appreciation cards to the teachers. So this is an annual event. Also we have got competition for designing of the cards first. We organize this is a joint project between our committee and Hong Kong Disneyland, also Ocean Park, to reward the parents volunteers. So volunteers who have been helping the schools, I think, including parents and teachers and students themselves, can have a good day of fun, have a fun day at Disneyland or Ocean Park. A large-scale project, something that I really look forward to, when COVID is over. Okay, some examples of homeschool cooperation in Hong Kong. Some schools do look into in helping the communication between schools and the parents, and they organize a lot of activities, including symposium, parent talk, parent day, the phone call between the teacher and the school and the school and the parents, and also some interviews. And the form of communication can be electronic, online message, emails, phone message as well. And they establish PTA as a channel of communication. And they do organize some of the very committed principals, organize frequent network conferences. I think network meeting, I should say, maybe not conferences, and talk to the parents directly when they have got new school policies, when they ask parents about the concern they have got towards the school, and maybe even some administrative matters. They do that. They'd say, and then they use the PTAs to channel information then further out to other parents. So they use PTA as a consultation I think vehicle. So this is, some schools do that quite successfully too. And some schools concentrate on allowing parents to bringing them into the school campus. So giving them opportunity to help as volunteers, maybe giving them roles to play, like storytelling. They do storytelling in kindergarten, and they'd help with maybe swimming gala, so swimming day, sports day, school visits, outing, and some schools even go as far as organizing parties for parents, or maybe birthday parties, so that just to bring them into the school, to know them better. And some of them even provide parent class observations. So to class observations by parents. This is quite rare, because in Hong Kong, the teachers do, I think we do follow a very stringent rule, is that what happens in classroom mostly are confidential. So by opening up the classroom for parents to actually view the classes is something that extra special. And some schools are willing to do that just to get the parents involved. And some schools, they provide the parent school or learning classes, and even some of them even be fee charging, although minimum amount of money, but they want to have some commitment shown by the parents by paying maybe some deposit up front, and then they will return it after the parents actually attend the full series of the classes. And that can be as frequent as weekly, every Saturday. Some of the schools organize classes like that in different areas, children development, parenting, and some of them even include activities like picnic, handmade souvenirs. And this is a particular example of a parents class, and because the school for this particular school, or actually quite a few schools in Hong Kong are run by religious organizations like churches. And for this particular school, they use church to collaborate with the school. So speakers actually invited from church, and they do different topics. So that actually solve a lot of problems if the schools actually run out of good speakers. And some schools actually concentrate on giving opportunity for growth and development to the parents. So even drama performance, they train up parents to do singing, dancing performance, drama performance, and involve them in community vocational service, organize really really formal training. Sometimes it can be as long as maybe 6 months or even 9 months. Okay, for the full school year, the parents have got different training. Then they call that a parent education institute. Okay, they do attend very formal training. Even alumni association for previous parents to actually stay in contact with the school. I think that's particularly useful if the parents have got more than one kid. And if they have been with school for a long time, they really become the anchor to the fellow parents. So other parents were happy to see them as they come back to rejoin activities. And then some schools actually concentrate on of principals communicating with the parents directly in the form of newsletter, writing to them diligently. Nowadays, you can use online devices, WhatsApp, email, and all this kind of gadgets. Some actually focus on emotional education series. This has become quite an important topic in Hong Kong nowadays. Mental wellness, because of firstly in 2019 there was a social turmoil in Hong Kong. We do have violence on street, and then for the last 2 years we do have COVID. So Hong Kong. And also, Hong Kong is not it's quite an expensive place to live. So in COVID situation, a lot of parents they go into unemployment, or they have the income reduced, or they actually work from home when the kids are studying at home. And you know that in Hong Kong, a lot of homes are quite small in size, so they have created a lot of tension even among the parents. So emotional education series has been very popular also in Hong Kong for parent education. And some schools in Hong Kong, they focus on activities. So there are all different activities like International Understanding Cultural Day, or something that Rotarians really love to do. Or we have Respect for Teachers Day. Even parents, in this particular instance, parents are joining as a choir on open day. So activities, the parents are there physically to give support to schools. And their parent volunteers party, badminton club as an interest class, and different painting class for the parents as well. This is an example from a schools for education, special education needs. For this particular school, I think it's actually quite a recent event they organized. It was a photo competition involving kids and parents together. So there's some example of the winning entries. Okay, so schools in Hong Kong have been very creative. Now, as long as they can bring in the parents, and so that the parents can be a good support to the kids for the learning, I think a lot of schools are really willing to venture into new activities. This is a summary of what actually some of the successful homeschool cooperation in Hong Kong we actually went through. But these are the different focuses that schools might have. Building relationship between the parents and the schools, let parents add value to themselves, giving meaning to parents' voluntary work is important. I think it's also for Rotarians too. It reminds us to give value to other people's voluntary work, other Rotarians' voluntary work. Building parents' sense of belonging to the school, sometimes difficult because the students is natural for them to go to school. For parents, sometimes they have hesitation. Why do I need to go to school, right? Again. And then create opportunities for parents to appreciate education received by children at school. That's important too. Sometimes parents do need to know what happens at schools and do need to show appreciation to the teachers and schools. I think that's very important because only when they show appreciation, they can be really good helping hands for the teachers. Okay, so this comes to the last section of my presentation. So on the PTAs, again, give some idea for area of Rotary that don't have PTAs as a common feature. This explain a little bit. Well, actually, some people may find PTA a foreign concept, or some Rotarian. So PTA in Hong Kong, normally we start with the principal as a member, also 3 teacher representative. So the principal may handpick, from the teaching team, who to join. Mostly will be very pleasant people who can deal with parents amicably. Keep the smiling face on all the time, while can do work too. And parent members at least 10. So we need officers, different officers like president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer, and then so a bit like a Rotary Club, basically. Wow, that gives me an idea. Can we grow a Rotary Club out of a PTA? Maybe we can work along that. Okay, so they have at least 3 meetings a year for election of officers, also for ensure that for good communication among the members. And one thing about PTA in Hong Kong we need to note in particular is for finance. Some schools do say that for financial matters, it's better that the schools give support to the PTA to avoid any risk or any anomalies. So some schools do actually take up the financial matters for the PTA themselves, and so that PTA can concentrate on other things. And the other slide, actually this is the last slide of my presentation. So PTA can be very good support to schools for fundraising, all sort of reasons. But fundraising is one of them. Okay, a lot of schools need to raise fund for additional items that are not being subsidized by the government. Many of the schools here in Hong Kong, they are subsidized schools, so they do have the funding from the government directly. But some schools do, when they think of something additional, maybe nowadays like STEM education, as is so popular, they want to buy extra books for library. Or sometimes they actually build extra sport facilities, as I recall, and they want to raise funds. So the parents can help, and the parent can help for doing voluntary work. I think in COVID, quite a schools have parents going in to help doing the cleaning work, also the immunization, even sometimes related work. They actually involve the parents too, and as helpers, and also, and very importantly, a lot of the suppliers of the schools, they actually ask the parents to help choosing them, to show that the schools are impartial. The textbook providers, lunch suppliers, school uniform suppliers, school bus providers, after school classes, they actually have the PTA's members to be among the panelists to ensure that the parents' interests are being looked after. So PTAs have been doing a lot of good communication between the parents and the schools. And that concludes my presentation. Come to the end, and questions are welcome.
Thank you so much for that beautiful presentation. I mean, such a structured program. I just loved it. I just feel bad that others didn't join. I expected at least 2 or 3 more members to join, but it's really sad that they didn't.
Don't worry about it. It's good that you're with me.
Oh, yes, of course. Anything
from the beginning to the end.
I was interested. And I just felt like, I have seen a very tiny part of something similar to what you shared in Taiwan. So I could relate quite a bit. And we do not have this kind of a program here in India. So, the Indian education system in schools are very different. And we do have the parents' involvement, but we really don't have a parents-teacher association. And I've seen parents volunteering schools in Taiwan, so in central Taiwan and in East Taiwan. And so that is something we do not have here. And so I am really very impressed. I mean, maybe in future I would visit your district and get to visit schools. That will be really very interesting if I can do that.
It may be something that Rotarians may consider, because I think that for education, especially for kids to choose their profession or vocation. Vocation is back to Rotary, right? A lot of countries in Europe are testing out, doing a family approach to ensure that the parents are involved in the career guidance and counseling process, to ensure that even after they graduate from school, the children do still receive good support from the parents. And also I think it's also put proper focus or weighting on the fact that parents to affect how the children choose the career and further study. So if you can have buy-in, and to have buy-in, the parents need to be trained up, because the current economy or society changed so quickly, with new vocations emerging everywhere. And parents, they really get lost when they think of a good vocation for the children. So a lot of countries, especially in European area, they are using a family approach when they do career counseling and guidance. And something that I think that highlights the importance to have schools getting families involved. But as Rotarians, we also know it's important for schools to get the community involved. Rotarians are doing a lot of projects for schools or with schools, and we represent community resources. So nowadays we are seeing an expanded concept of classroom that goes beyond the classroom, that actually touches family, the private sector, and also the community, the public sector as well. So how to connect up, I think, is a major reform that we need to see that we should expect to see in worldwide education sector soon because of technology. Yes. And I think as Rotarian, I'm very proud that we have been doing a lot of projects for schools. I think the next frontier, the next frontiers are the families. But also in Hong Kong, there are Rotary clubs thinking of how we can actually help the parents through the parenting exercise that I mentioned, and also how they actually can have better support towards the children. And I'm happy to actually, if I have a chance to go to your district to see what we can offer. But my presentation is here. I'm always happy to talk about what happens in homeschool cooperation in Hong Kong whenever you feel is appropriate.
Yeah, sure. So in my Rotary Club, which is E-Club of Melbourne, District 9800 Australia, I will talk to the president-elect so that you can make a presentation in the next Rotary year, because in the current Rotary year, we already have speakers until June. So from July onwards, if we can have you in any one of the evenings, Melbourne is the East Coast. So if we can have you at 8 p.m. Australia Eastern Daylight Time, which would be, I think, sometime around this time of your evening, like between 5 to 6 o'clock would be, I think, 8 o'clock Melbourne time. So
I'm flexible. Yeah, I live in Melbourne for 1 year. I work for BHP and headquarters. So my two doors are in Sydney. So, I'm very familiar with the Australian time zone. Australian time zone, yes.
Yeah. So I would really like you to do a presentation in our club. And I invite you to our country. I mean, not only to our district, Rotary district is different, but to our country. And if you can share once, traveling would be fine. If you can share here in Calcutta, that would be really very nice.
Nowadays, using Zoom, I can go anywhere. Okay, yes, so I'm happy. Actually, even I should appreciate the opportunity to talk to other my fellow Rotarians who specialize in this area.
Absolutely.
If you come across anyone in homeschool cooperation, please tell me. Okay,
yeah,
so
definitely.
love to talk to him or her.
Yes, absolutely. I'll